Hi everybody, this is my lecture for the day and I am here at home with my kitty cat Patsy, so you may hear him meowing in the background. And the next thing we're going to be working on is positive messages. So far we've talked about, just writing basic internet emails and things that can happen on the internet, but we're going to talk about writing when you have something that's positive to say rather than something that's like a complaint. So think about this as being like you want to put a good review on Yelp, that kind of thing. Okay, so this is the formatting that you will use for the typical business letter. If you have some sort of letterhead, you'll put it up at the top. Not everybody has letterhead, and it's perfectly okay to leave that off and just put what's called the inside address. So if they're doing the inside address, they would put Cypress Associates Incorporated, and then they put 5090 Catella Avenue, Anaheim, California, and then the zip code. They've also put how to contact them via the internet, how to contact them via phone, and how to contact them via fax. So you'll put about 2 inches from the top of the page the date. And oops, then about 2 to 7 blank lines depending on what form you're using and how much space you have too. That's another thing to keep in mind, is how much space do I have here. And then you'll put the inside address. I know this seems really weird, you've put your address at the top and then you put their address, and shouldn't they know? But that's just the way that you do that. So in this case, it's going to Miss Latoya Williams at Healthcare Specialists, and then her address. Okay, and then there's a salutation. They put Dear Miss Williams. It's always better to default on the safe side of, okay, when it's like MRS or MS, put MS just in case, and the person will tell you if that's not correct. The subject here is formatting business letters. Okay, and then they leave one blank line, and then they start putting together their paragraphs. You leave one blank line between those paragraphs, so it's single spaced, but it has a space in between the paragraphs. This numbered list that they've created this so that it's easier to read. If you can break things down into a list or break them down into bullet points, it's really helpful instead of just reading this solid wall of text. I'm sure you've probably seen that, and that's really irritating, isn't it? That you just have to read through all of this stuff and decide what is and is not the most important points in these paragraphs. So that's what they've done here, and I'm going to flip to the next slide. Okay, after they've closed this, they're going to put what's called a complementary closing. So they have this paragraph that kind of transitions into the closing, and it says, so that you can see additional styles, I'm sending our office style guide. I hope that this material is helpful to you and your assistants, Ms. Williams. And then they have the complimentary closing, which is sincerely. If you can print your name on there, that's terrific. There are some ways that you can like scan your name in and just put it in there. The one caveat to that is that people can get your signature and they can replicate it. So it's better just to leave like about 3 or 4 blank spaces and then sign it. And then print your name and any title that you may have. In this case, Sharon Montoya was the executive director, so she's put her title there, executive director. So then you leave one blank line, and then any reference initials. If you have something that you're including in here, you will put enclosure. So if I'm including another document, I'll put enclosure. Okay, so ask the most important questions first, or express a polite command. And you would think that would be something that would be like second nature, but sometimes when you're writing, you tend to you will tend to try to over-explain the situation or give people too much background instead of just out and asking them what it is that you need, or asking them to do something. Okay. Explain the request logically and courteously. So you don't want to be overly emotional. You want to say why the person wants to do this, and then ask other questions if necessary. Okay. For the closing, request a specific action with an end date if that is appropriate, and then show appreciation of what it is that they've done. And in the example that I showed, they were using her name to show appreciation. So like saying thank you, so and so, for your consideration. Okay. Hi, Patsy. So in the subject line, identify any previous correspondence or summarize the main information from your reply. Okay, this is if you're sending it through email. And in the opening, directly respond to the request with a summary statement, and then in the body, you'll want to explain what it is that you are saying, and you want to arrange the information in a logical way. You will want to promote your organization and its projects, and some of this requires being a little persuasive. And the last part of this, after our slideshow, I'm going to talk a little more about persuasion and ways that you can get people on your side. So you want to close with one of the following: a concluding remark, a summary, or an offer of further assistance. Okay, and then the closing, summarize the contents of the message. Expand the message subject line by stating the main sentence concisely in a full sentence. So if you have that one main idea, and if you've ever been in like English 98 before, you know that they talk to you about making a main idea and then restating it in your conclusion. Well, here you go. It's come back to haunt you, unfortunately. So when you're writing a letter with a positive message, if you get to the ending, you will state that main idea in a full sentence. Okay, and divide the instructions into steps and list in the order that they should be carried out. Arrange items in a numbered list. Numbered lists and bulleted lists are great. They really help with people who are reading down. You're like, why should I care about this? Oh, hey, look at that. So they are able to see things, and that pops to them more than if it was in a paragraph. And then begin each step with an action verb if possible. So begin those bullets with verbs rather than full sentences. Okay, request action, summarize the message or present a closing thought. Okay, describe the problem or describe the desired action. Well, yes. Explain the claim, explain why it's justified, provide details about the action requested, and include any necessary documentation. Documentation is good. End pleasantly with a goodwill statement, of course. You always want to end on a positive note, and then include the date when this must be done by this particular date, and an action if there is a time limit to this. Okay, identify previous correspondence and make a general reference to the main topic. These are adjustments. Grant the request or announce the adjustment immediately. Provide details of how you're complying with the request. Strive to regain the reader's confidence. And apologize if appropriate. Don't admit negligence. Okay, so let's say that something has gone wrong. And invariably, things go wrong. So you're responding to something that's gone wrong here with this adjustment. You don't say that it's all your fault, but it may be that it's something that you feel you need to apologize for. To give you an example, that stuff that happened on the Panopta system, I didn't know that any of that was going to happen, and I didn't know that there was going to be all of those snags with going out to Shelton and doing the ITV from there. So, hi Patsy. So those are things that I really do. I do not want any of those things to happen. So I have apologized for them, but it's not. I didn't mean to do that. So I'm not saying, oh yeah, that was all my fault. because a lot of things can go wrong and they cannot necessarily be your fault. So when you're writing something that's kind of a response to something that you didn't foresee that's gone wrong, then you don't necessarily need to admit that you were negligent. And in these letters, end positively with a forward-looking thought, express confidence in future business dealings, and you may offer the person something. So something went really wrong, and in this class, if something goes really wrong, I'm probably going to offer you an extension of your paper for real. I can't offer you a coupon for anything, but I can offer you that. Okay, so if you have to send somebody a goodwill message, these are things that are expressing thanks, congratulations, recognition, sympathy. Okay. And if you're writing a message of goodwill, you want to be selfless. So you don't focus on you. You focus on the people who are receiving the message. You want to be specific, keep the message short, be spontaneous, and be sincere. Okay? So what we're going to be looking at is the pitch that the Roxy Theater, the Roxy Revival people have made for reviving the Roxy Theater. And this is the first time that you are seeing this message. So you may actually see this message if you are ahead of the game and looking at this right now, which is I'm recording this on the 14th. You're receiving this message before anybody has seen it. So that's pretty special. You're seeing the pitch that this group has put forth, trying to convince people that it is a worthwhile plan to revive the Roxy Theater in Bremerton. And to do this, they have to persuade people, and persuasion is something that's kind of challenging. I'm going to use this really old Persuasive Strategies PowerPoint that I've used before, but it works and it gets the message across. Okay, all of you have seen persuasion that doesn't work as well as it should. For instance, remember all of those animal commercials that you see on television, and now they've got the ones that are with disabled veterans. Who in their right mind would like want to hurt a disabled veteran? So, but you see these, and they're kind of sketchy, and they have to do with like these dogs that they say, oh, the dog is suffering. Oh my gosh, won't you donate to help the dog or the cat? Or oh look, the veteran is suffering. Won't you help to donate to the veteran? And you're kind of thinking, I like the idea. Where is this money going? So I think what gives us away is that they play the really gloopy song and they show you horrible pictures, and so you kind of think, I'm not sure I really believe that. That's persuasion that is really ineffective. We're going to look at effective persuasion. Okay, so in effective persuasion, you want to state your argument. Okay, and this example that they give here is, I'm going to try to convince you that chocolate is a healthy snack. Good luck. They will have some persuading to do. Okay. One of the things that people do when they're trying to persuade you of something is that they use what are called big names. They use people or experts that can make an argument seem more convincing. Just make sure that your argument has something to do with what it is you're arguing about. Okay, this says former President Bill Clinton thinks that junk food should be taken out of vending machines. Okay, that would be the opposite argument to the one we just saw. But then again, you got Bill Clinton. Yeah, he kind of knows about junk food insofar as I think he eats it, but I don't think that he's really the best person. It would be better to get like a nutritionist and say, this nutritionist says that junk food should be taken out of vending machines, or this nutritionist says that actually chocolate is better than you think. So Look for people who support your opinion that are very well known. The second part here is called logos, and this is facts, numbers, and information that can be very convincing to your readers. Okay, people like to see numbers. They like to see facts. Okay, so the example here is a Snickers bar has 128 calories and 30 grams of fat. That's not very healthy. No, it is not. Okay, and so they're gonna provide a citation for that. And if you are saying that chocolate is very healthy, then you're gonna have to answer to that. So facts can be a very important thing in persuading people. But persuasion goes beyond just facts. So it's things like getting people to feel happy or sad or angry. And you want them to feel in the way you want to feel about your argument. So they look at that little puppy. Your donation might just get this puppy off the street and into a good home. Oh my gosh, that's how I got Patsy here, who's just meowing away, is that he came to the door and he was very pathetic. So, yeah, I kind of buy into that, I don't want the puppy to be miserable, just like I didn't want Patsy to be miserable. So that's pathos. Okay, ethos is if people believe and trust in you, okay? And that's a part of where good writing comes in, The example is, believe me, I've been there before, I'm just like you, but another example can be like, do you sound like you are convincing? That's important, isn't it, Patsy? Okay, and then kairos. Trying to convince your audience that this issue is so important that they have to act now. They put up a sales offer here. This is a one-time offer. You can't get this price after today. But it could be also, like, why should you be on board with this particular issue right now? You can't wait on this. Join today. Okay, research is good. It's always good, no matter what you're trying to do, and you want to have the best research that you possibly can, because it's going to make your argument seem more convincing, even if it is a persuasive argument. So the example here is that a recent study found that students who watch TV during the week don't do as good in school, and they're going to cite this, and this is something that people can look at and say, yes, I think I believe in this, or I don't believe in this. So when you're making a pitch, one of the things that you definitely want to do is that you want to sound as persuasive as you possibly can. In the case of the Roxy Revival people, one of the things that they're really encountering that's a big hurdle is that people are not necessarily thrilled about the idea of investing money into this building that may or may not be successful. So they've had to combat that. They've also had to combat all of the previous attempts to revitalize Bremerton. There have been a number of attempts to revitalize Bremerton ever since the retail sector fell apart in the 1980s. And so people are kind of like, well, why should I believe that this is any different? There's been some progress made. Things are not as grim as they were before. We've had some things happen. For instance, the Admiral Theater was restored. The restoration of the Admiral Theater was a big deal. A lot of people thought, I don't think that this is going to happen, but it has happened. And now this is one of the big draws to Bremerton. It is a dinner theater. They have different shows there. They have everything from the Chinese opera to, in October, they have the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So this has been a great way to draw people to Bremerton, and a lot of this had to do with people writing messages and creating business plans and making pitches and having to persuade people to do something that they were not necessarily sure was possible. I have to admit, I was in the Admiral Theater in the 1980s. I did not think it was possible to restore this theater after it had set for this period of time. I'm just being perfectly honest. In the 1980s, the Roxy Theater looked much, much better than the Admiral Theater. The Admiral Theater was an utter mess, partly because it had been split in half. So it was a multiplex. And yeah, so a lot of work went into this. So what you are looking at here, you are looking at the Roxy Revival summary, and this is an example of a positive message, and they're having to convince people that it is worth taking this theater that is basically sitting in ruins in Bremerton on 4th Street, and why should I care? Why should I be interested in reviving this theater and opening it up as a nonprofit? So what they have written here is something that people are going to look at, and they're going to decide, is this a worthy thing? And it's, you know, I don't know what necessarily they're going to decide. One of their advisors here has reopened a theater that's called the Majestic Theater. You'll also notice that one of the advisors here is the mayor. So she's been very on board with this. So you have a lot of people who are getting together, and they're having to produce documents that they're writing as a group. And they're having to write these documents and submit them to people. The wording in these documents is very important. It may be that at some point in time in your career, you do need to sit down with other people and create this kind of writing. And you take a look at it, look at how nice this looks. And part of the reason this looks so nice is because Crystal Yingling, the CEO, she has a degree in graphic design. So, you know, if you can use the talent that you have, that's great. But you see how they put all of this together. And let me tell you about this project. All of this started because Crystal was doing her master's degree at Seattle University, her MFA, and it was originally just like a fake project about, hey, let's rescue a theater that's a historic theater in town. And she said, you know what? There is one in my town. And do you think it would be possible to actually put this into action? So this is where this is moving from outside of the writing that's done in the classroom to something that is actually happening in real life. And that can happen. You can have an idea, and it's an idea that occurs in the classroom, and it's a perfectly legitimate idea, and you take that outside of the classroom and actually get the change done. I've been in this theater before when I was a child, and it's a real shame that we have this space and it's just sitting there empty. So that was my connection. That was what got me on board with this. But there may be other people who are looking at this going, why should I? So they're having to be persuasive in this writing, even if they're not necessarily overly persuasive. So that's what I would like you to take a look at. I'd like you to take a look at this document and see how are they necessarily using the elements of persuasion. Are there elements of persuasion that they are not using in this particular document? And I can see some of those. I don't really see the necessarily the the idea of kairos, about you must act now. But I do see other elements of persuasion that we've discussed that you can take a look at and say, yes, these elements of persuasion are there. So this is what I would like you to do. I would like you to write me a document about 1 page, double-spaced, and send it to me. And it will be discussing what elements of persuasion appear in this particular document on the Roxy Theater and which ones don't. This document will appear on Canvas, so you should be able to open it. If you have any difficulty opening it, please let me know as soon as possible. And we will continue to sort of explore this idea about taking things that are in your community and writing about them. And I hope that that is something that is helpful to you. So that's this particular class lecture. In the future, we will be talking also about creating negative messages. Negative messages would be things like you have bad news to deliver to somebody. Maybe you have to give somebody a bad review. How is it that you do that, and do that in a professional way? So I will be posting the Albert School of Business presentations probably tomorrow afternoon, as soon as I can get home and upload those. We have been unable to just like communicate with Canvas through Seattle U, and that's unfortunate, but that is what it is. So you will be seeing my tape of this. I will try to make the best tape that I possibly can. And hopefully you will be able to hear it, and it will not be completely incoherent. I'm going to try to have someone from the Roxy team come down here and talk about writing as a collaborative group, because this is a number of people that have gotten together and said, okay, we're going to write as Roxy Revival. And I know there's been a lot of discussion of things like for instance, I think it was Hillary that posted something and it came up as Roxy, but it was kind of more of a Hillary thing. And Crystal said, did you know that posted as Roxy? So when you write as a group, there is always that element of, am I saying things that are just from me, or am I speaking for the entire group? The instance was that it was about jobs that were available to veterans. And I mean, and me as a person, as just a citizen, I hear what it was that she was saying, because we have people that are being tracked into jobs that they say, what am I doing? And so, you know, that made sense, but the discussion was about, should this really be going out under Roxy Revival, or should this be going out as under Hillary's personal account? So I think that's a worthy discussion to have. Is you know, when I write something, is it me? Is it my interest? Or is it the interests of the entire group? Eventually, I would like you to break into groups and produce some writing that is group writing. When you do that, you're going to have to get away from that sense of ownership that comes with writing something. So, and this is a very hard thing to do. And what often happens in a lot of these groups, and what I would like to not happen with these groups, is that one person says, that's it, I'm tired of what I'm seeing with this group. So I am going to make sure that I make this group succeed. But really, everybody should be playing a part. And if everybody is not playing a part, that is something that I need to know immediately, because I can adjust those persons' grades. So if you were trying to do all of the work and other people were not doing the work, don't do their work for them. Just explain this to me. And even though this may seem a little annoying, it is important to practice it, because you will have times when you need to get together with people to collaborate on projects. Some of those may be writing projects. And it doesn't matter. It's even if you are a welder, it's possible that you will be collaborating on some project that requires writing. And you'll want to present yourself in as positive a light as you possibly can. So you will build on the strengths and weaknesses of the people around you. Some people are great with grammar. Some other people are wonderful with content. Some people research things very well. I love to research things. And a part of what happened with the Roxy Revival was that I had volunteered to research the history of this theater, and I had uncovered some things that indicated that this actually was a historical theater. They didn't know that before. So this kind of opened the door to allowing this theater to be designated as a possible historical place in Bremerton. And that to me, that's awesome. I mean, that's totally worth the time that I spent there at the library looking up all of this information, because now this can really go forward. And it may be that that the place has historical status and they cannot knock it down. That's awesome. So research is in and of itself really important. So you don't need to be the person that actually puts the words on the page. You can be the person that goes out and finds the stuff and does the things. And that is just as important as the actual writing that is done on the page. So I'm going to be asking you to do things that are, I'm hoping to break you into traits. And I'm going to be asking you to do things that are specific to your traits. Cosmetology and aesthetics are going to kind of be dovetailed together. I apologize for that, but it's just that we only have 2 people in cosmetology and aesthetics. But I think that's enough to where you can get together and collaborate and make a group. So again, what I would like you to do is I would like you to take a look at this Roxy Revival pitch that they have here, and I would like you to explain to me how this shows or does not show those elements of persuasion that is on the second slideshow. These are things like research and ethos and kairos. If you have any questions, please let me know as soon as possible. I am hoping that everybody can be on Canvas very soon, and that we will have all of these technology problems solved as soon as we possibly can. Okay, so I'd like you to have a great Wednesday, and I hope all of you can view this.